I did civilian service at SETA, where an incredibly beautiful Ethiopian woman always wanted to take me to the cinema, but it was in a 7-room apartment on Osterman where an au pair girl arranged a party. I got a hickey that was never going away. I talk loudly to myself all the time and make noises. Dad is a soundtrack, my daughter used to say. It gets a little embarrassing when you rehearse dialogues from memory aloud, or if you reproduce in a cinema what has just been said in the film. I learned to stop doing it, at least in a sober state. It's about as important as when I learned not to sneak fart in public. When I learn something, I stick to it. As an 11-year-old, I learned from watching the TV news that the military and religion were stupid things. I learned late in life that reality does not consist of a lot of elementary particles but of a few all-encompassing quantum fields, like an infinite Pars Café that has been shaken or stirred here and there locally by the universal wave function. It was a definite turning point in my view of life when I finally let go of my resistance to the concept of fields the moment I fully realized that gravity is a field. Now I'm looking for where this, my latest writing project, will land. I think in 7 years. You can run aground. But where does it start? It is not possible to answer exactly, but that does not mean that we doubt the reality of what you hit. How do you know when you reach a goal? It's more like searching for the length of a coastline. How long it is depends on the length of the yardstick you use. You can always get it a little longer if you change to a shorter yardstick, indefinitely. It's a bit like Zeno's paradoxes. What then is the real distance? No coastal road is infinitely long. It takes a certain amount of time to drive. I see consciousness as the water's edge on a shallow sandy beach. Which thoughts end up below or above the water surface change a little all the time. Some constantly end up underwater and rule in the subconscious. Others become grains of memory from which we can build sandcastles. The problem is not that sandcastles weather. The problem is when the avatars playing in the sand do. Expressions in literature, art, philosophy or music that my brain's genie get to know in short-term working memory, I barely have time to wish immortality before I realize that they do not mean shit if I do not get to keep an avatar that can follow them. I was going to turn 5 shortly after Dad turned 40 and I told Mom I wanted to have as big a party as he had. But then Grandma died and we went to her townhouse in Växjö where I scared the neighbor boy by saying that his parents would die before him. And back home in Husqvarna again when a hubby in the stairwell next to ours had a 50th birthday party, the only thing I could think of was what a horror it must be to know that you only have at most half of your life left. I got an awkward attitude to big family reunions just at that moment. How closely one's ideas are related to others should be given far greater importance than with whom one happens to have a genetically close relationship. During sexual reproduction, your child leaves exactly half of its genes to your grandchild, but that half could by chance be the half it received from its other parent and not a single gene from you. After 4 generations, there is almost a greater chance that you are related to a person you meet by chance. To research family trees is completely pointless. At the same time the COVID-19 pandemic started spreading mindlessly around the world, a major breakthrough in quantum computing spread even faster, though it took 165 pages to prove that the class of entangled multiple interactive proofs is equivalent to the set of recursively enumerable languages and contains uncomputable problems, which involves reducing the halting problem to the problem of approximating the entangled value of non-local games. Now that's a real showstopper. Life begins with Turing-compatible general computing power, simple RNA manages that, and the halting problem is the driving force behind our existential anxiety, that we feel we are alive. With consciousness we demand immortality. When I became a widower at the turn of the century, I sold the house and moved out to a printer's shed south of town. I processed the grief by writing the trilogy The Draw from Infinity, The Pattern of Diversity and Without Me in Heaven, where each one from different perspectives, big to small, was based on an insight I took from quantum physics that all moments are forever in their own worlds and that all possible worlds exist. I thought I had come up with something when I thought about collecting as many good moments as possible to add the pile of moments in all worlds, But when I said that to one of the first avatars I met in Second Life, she became angry and said it was like blaming people for shit happening. Physicists agree that according to quantum mechanics, any possibility that is not forbidden will actually happen, but also that information, according to the same quantum mechanics, is forbidden to ever be destroyed. Everything that happened one can in principle find again. Reproducible patterns are easy to find. They exist in all possible contexts. Outbreaks of mass silliness happen from time to time, and eventually get corrected. Not all patterns are interesting, only those that carry digital information. It is the prerequisite for reproduction in all life and not just, as one might think, life in virtual worlds. A woman from Gothenburg once said that I spent my whole life being different. For a long time I thought I wanted to break patterns and therefore sought anonymity in the big city. At the same time, I was the first among my Stockholm friends to get a family and a terraced house,